Hello everybody, this is Donnie with Pugna.com. Thanks for tuning in today, and we have a new patch. So let's just go over the patch notes real quick because this is the spring cleaning update, and I'm just going to go over some of the changes and just quickly highlight all of the new cool stuff that Valve has added to the game. So let's just get right into it. Spring cleaning 2018 update has arrived to sweep in a slew of new bug fixes and quality of life improvements. So let's take a look at what those are. Here's what we changed. The first thing is they redesigned the player profile, and this looks really cool. I can quickly go to mine over here, and you can see that you can modify what heroes are highlighted. It has a little bit of personalization, which is pretty cool. It shows you your most successful heroes. You can change the background of your profile. Some of them look kind of weird because the hero backgrounds are a little bit too complicated usually, but yeah, it's just kind of a cool little feature that you can do. And let's go back to that. So cool. So this is what the new hero profile, or the new player profile, looks like. The rest of these tabs haven't changed at all, but at least this gives you a little bit more personalization, so that's cool. Check it out. Let's get back to the patch notes. Okay, so the redesigned player profile. There is going to be a new gameplay changelog, which is really awesome. This is something that we've been asking for a long time. It lets you know if there is some new ability changes or talent changes to heroes that are in your game. So when you are in the game, it'll have a little tooltip that shows you that there's something new with the hero. So this will hopefully help people who haven't played in a little while, are not keeping up, who don't read the patch notes regularly, to understand the game a little bit better. Valve has also added a last hit trainer, which is cool. I checked it out. It's basically just the demo mode, except it actually gives you a little bit of score for last hits, and you can, I don't know, challenge yourself, challenge your friends to reach a different high score. I was already using the demo mode to do this, so it's not really any different, but it's cool that they added it in. It's under the Learn tab, so just if somebody is new to the game, they can see that last hitting is important. They can train it here, so that's cool as well. Improved buyback notifications. This is really awesome. It helps you, it just gives you more information. You know, Dota is a game where information is very important, and knowing what your teammates have as far as buybacks, teleports, that kind of stuff is all super important. So Valve is kind of helping us do that now, which I really like with this, and actually the teleport status as well. They've added a live pro circuit tournament tab, which is cool. They're pushing a little bit more sort of like community watch. The tournaments help support the scene. And these two changes are some of my favorite, actually. The strategy phase item pooling. I don't know about you guys, but whenever I queue into a game and I'm playing support, I always end up having to click multiple times because the game is sort of not as responsive as I want it to be to share tangos and share wards. So you can actually do this now in the drafting phase, which is super, super cool, or at least in the strategy phase. So you can just immediately run to the lane, go place your wards, that kind of stuff, without having to chase down your offlaner to give them a ward because they ran out of fountain or something like that. Team teleport status. This is extremely cool. You can see who has TP, when it's going to cool down. This is going to be very important to keep track of on your team, to know who should be going to defend the base and that kind of thing. So once again, more information that Valve is now allowing us to have, instead of having to communicate with your team and ask them if they have DP or click on their heroes. So I like this a lot. 6-month matchmaking bans. This is going to be hopefully not something that a lot of you guys experience, but it's good because the people that are routinely griefing and feeding, abandoning, abusing people in matchmaking, if they have a pattern of bad behavior, they will get a 6-month matchmaking ban, and that will most likely keep them out of the player pool, at least for a little while. I mean, there'll probably still be some issues with Smurfs, but this is definitely a step in the right direction of having less and less tolerance for people being just game ruiners and generally awful people to play Dota with. Language-based matchmaking is now being extra emphasized, so we should see slightly more people who speak your language in your matchmaking games. It's, you know, there's no way to really tell How much this will affect it, I'm sure that you will still probably have teams of maybe English or Spanish or whatever speakers, and then you'll have a team of English speakers playing against them. But at the very least, it's good that Valve is sort of paying attention to what the community has been asking for, and generally speaking, I think this will probably improve the player experience a little bit at least. Redeliver courier items. Good teammates help ensure the courier always gets where it needs to go, and with the new hero delivery icons that appear on the courier interface when it's carrying someone else's items, it's easier than ever to be a good teammate. So it looks like it will sort of queue up the heroes that have items on the courier, which will remind you that yes, you can right click on the courier and go to redeliver items once you have used it. So if multiple people have items on the courier and somebody takes the courier from somebody else, you can send it on to the next person in that queue. I don't really know how it will determine if there's like 3 or 4 people on it. I haven't tested that yet. But remember that you can right click the courier and send it on to people that also have items on it, which is super important to do because you can't always pay attention to the courier when you're in the mid lane fighting for last hits or in the middle of a fight. Custom Game Arcade has been revamped. There will be dedicated servers for custom games, which is awesome. This is good news for tools like the Polygon training tool, which we're sponsoring. If you haven't checked that out, you definitely should. It helps you learn to do a bunch of skills, manta dodging, skill shots, warm up before games, that kind of stuff. This is good news just generally for the custom game scene. So hopefully we'll see a lot more awesome tools and custom games coming out as well with this sort of benefit. Some more custom game changes, minimap neutral difficulty icons. Just a small change it looks like, so you can see if there's 2, it's a medium camp, 1 is a small camp, 3 is a large camp, so just a little bit more information on the minimap. Most of us probably have this stuff memorized, but it's just good for new players. Some party quality of life things, which is good. Friend filters, so you can, have people join your parties more regularly or more readily. Color-coded TPs is cool, so it looks like there will be a small ring around the heroes that just shows what player is TPing in. Again, just another quality of life change, and they have finally brought back the visual tower damage, so the towers will crumble as they take damage. So there's a bunch more user interface changes that we can quickly go over. Hero loadout pages now show what scepter upgrades the hero has, so just generally more information. Talents now show tooltips by pressing Alt. Anyone in a party can now invite other party players directly. Commends now provide notification to the player that includes your name, so if you commend somebody after the game, they will get a notification that says that somebody commended you, which is really cool. It's good for the community. It's good for people to feel, good about themselves and that their behavior was good, that they played well. I like this change a lot, actually. Runes can now be pinged via the minimap. I like this. I generally ping the rune spot for my mid if I'm playing a roamer or something like that. And it's nice that you don't have to actually go to that spot on the minimap. You can just click on the minimap and it will show what rune is for your team. Ability icons now show a progress overlay for cast points once the button is pressed. So I'm not entirely sure what this means, but I'll have to check that out. I assume that it'll just kind of give you a little bit of an indication of how long your cast point is for things. Buildings now show an effect when getting hit under backdoor protection. Haven't really looked at this yet, but I guess it'll just have a little bit more visual aid that it's under backdoor protection or something. Added spectating view for scan and glyph. Fixed various connection issues affected by custom games. Improved input latency for low-end machines, etc., etc., etc. Lots of bug fixes. Disassembling is now allowed while dead. This is nice. Holding Alt now shows Sentry Ward AoE. That's also nice. There's some new stats to the profile. Unit tooltip now shows movement speed, base speed plus bonus. So that's cool. Just more information. Consume tomes now show up in post-game screen. You can level up skills during pause. That's kind of cool. Skills can now be alt-click during pause. More quality of life stuff. buying items while dead will now go to your inventory directly rather than the stash. That's interesting, but cool. It gives you more information on Observer and Sentry wards. You can show how much time remains on buffs by alt-clicking it. Pro players now have an indicator next to their name. Game details panel of the watch screen. More UI stuff. Let's go on to the gameplay changes. Walking into shop now clears backpack and item move cooldowns. I like this a lot. It's really annoying if you are walking somewhere and then you're going to the shop and you put an item from your backpack into your inventory and it's just on cooldown. This just gives, it's like a little bit of a buff to shops, I guess. Various little bugs which have been fixed. Let's go on to the gameplay update. Okay, wards now require a constant 2 hits to kill both Observer and Sentry wards. So this buffs the low damage supports that are trying to de-ward, and it also buffs the wards in the late game so they can't just be one shot by a hero with 200 damage. So I like this just because it helps out supports in the early game and also makes your wards a little bit harder to kill in the late game. So good change here. Tier 1 tower armor increased from 1 to 2, just a slight buff to standing on your tier 1 tower when people are attacking you. Bounty runes basic speed reduced from 25 to 0. Not a huge change, but just a slight nerf to bounty runes. Gold growth increased from 2 per minute to 4 per minute. So the longer the game goes, the more they'll be worth. And just throughout the game, the gold from bounty runes will be a little bit higher. Roshan now has 25% status resistance. So he can't be hexed for as long, he can't be shackled for as long, stunned as long. So just making Roshan a little bit harder. Not a huge change. All pick drafting time per hero selection reduced from 30 to 25 seconds. So if you haven't watched the video about planning your drafts is slightly more important now because you have less time to make your picks. So I mean, this just generally speeds up the picking phase a little bit, which I kind of like. Item changes. Aeon Disc health threshold reduced from 80% to 70%. So it will trigger at slightly lower HP. I think that this is good. I think the 80% was pretty high. It made it really hard to buy this hero on anything other than like a high HP strength hero or in a situation where basically you just have to live. This makes it slightly more utility. Not a huge change, but it'll make it maybe a little bit more viable on some specific squishier heroes. Battlefury creep bonus damage, this is a pretty big one, has been reduced from 60% to 50%. That's not the biggest change. Creep bonus no longer works with illusions, so this is bad for PL, bad for Terrorblade, bad for Chaos Knight. I don't know if anybody was buying Battlefury and Naga Siren, but now you definitely won't. Black King Bar has been nerfed quite a bit in the later stages of the game. Cooldown rescaled from 80, 75, 70, etc. to just 70 at all levels. So it's a little bit better early and worse late. Blink Dagger cooldown has been increased from 12 to 14. So this will be something you'll just have to get a little bit of a feel for. It is a nerf to Blink Dagger, so you can't just blink as often, obviously. And that's fine. I mean, this item is bought. It's probably the most important item in the game for most heroes. And so a slight nerf is, probably warranted. Enchanted Mango restores slightly more mana. So Heroes of the Day is buffed, and Mango is just continually being buffed by Esrog. What a surprise. Fairy Fire has also been buffed slightly. So this actually gives you a pretty good regen for the amount that it costs. You might have to look at starting items a little bit and see if Fairy Fires are more viable. I think that with that little bit of extra gold, it's probably always a good idea to just get a Fairy Fire now. 10 health doesn't seem like a lot, but it's pretty value at this point for what it gives you. Force Staff has been nerfed to make the travel time when you're forced slightly longer. Not very much, but I guess you'll just move a little bit slower than you do normally. Hurricane Pike has the same nerf. Cooldown has also been increased by 5 seconds. So I'm not totally sure what. Let's see if we can find this. Okay, Force Staff. The cooldown is 23 seconds, and Hurricane Pike, the cooldown is also 23 seconds now. So it's basically just removing the cooldown reduction that Hurricane Pike used to have, if I believe I'm correct on that. Meteor Hammer has been significantly buffed by the cooldown going from 40 to 28 seconds. So this actually, I mean, they're trying to make this item viable. This is a pretty good cooldown. It's going to help you clear waves, clear basically every creep wave that you find. So I think there's probably quite a bit of room for experimentation with Meteor Hammer, especially on heroes that don't have a good farming tool. I've sort of thought that Meteor Hammer is a really good item on Clockwork. I haven't actually tried it out yet, but it seems to synergize with his cogs, and he doesn't really have the best farming tools. So if he has a 28-second cooldown wave clear, that might be a pretty awesome item on heroes like Clockwork, Bane, etc. Soul Ring has been slightly nerfed. This item is too good. You should be buying it on almost every single hero, I think. The strength is super good for supports. The strength is good for strength heroes. The mana is extremely good. And just the build-up in general is very good for this item. This nerf doesn't really do very much. Just makes it slightly more expensive. Spirit Vessel recipe cost has been increased by 150. Makes it a little bit harder to get. I think that this item is probably still too good, but at least it's being slightly nerfed. Alright, hero changes. Alchemist has been slightly changed. Base attack time has been improved at the early levels of Chemical Rage. His talent, Unstable Concoction cooldown, has been buffed with an additional -3 seconds. His level 15 talent for health has been increased by 50, and level 20 talent has been increased by an additional 40 damage. So still, I guess, trying to push the support Alchemist build. I mean, this hero, none of these changes are very big, but I guess, slight buffs to Alchemist. Ember Spirit has also been slightly buffed to do more damage with Sleight of Fist. Enchantress has been nerfed, base damage reduced by 3. These small little numbers don't seem like a lot, but at the early levels, it's going to make Enchantress slightly less annoying, which is great. Still going to be a really annoying hero. Still a very good hero because of her skill kit, but this is a nice quality of life change for carries for the most part. Jikuro reduced attack backswing, so he's going to attack a little bit faster or less time between attacks, which is nice. He's very slow. He feels like a very clunky hero, so this will make him a little bit less clunky. Juggernaut Blade Dance damage has been reduced by 20% to 180, so he'll do slightly less damage. Again, not a huge change, just a slight nerf to make him trade a little bit worse, do slightly less damage in general. Leshrac has been buffed a little bit with mana cost being reduced on Split Earth, so you can farm a little bit more efficiently with Leshrac and use your stun probably one more time at the early levels or something like that. Lina has been buffed, base intelligence increased by 3, so that's also 3 damage. Base damage random variance reduced from 18 to 12. This might actually just rescale to be about the same, but just probably makes Lina do slightly more damage with right clicks in general. Lyon, this one's actually a pretty big change. Mana Drain now slows target by 14, 16, 18, and 20%. So Lyon now has a third disable Hex, Earth Spike, and Mana Drain. So Lyon is going to be a very strong hero. Lyon was already a good hero, but this makes Lyon even better. Makes it viable to just grab Mana Drain a little bit earlier than you would normally to help with ganking. And also just get more mana per Mana Drain because it will take them longer to get out of range. Lycan, Shapeshift cooldown has been increased across the board. Base armor has been reduced by 1, so Lycan really has no armor. Shapeshift still has the talent to reduce the cooldown, but this just generally makes the hero punished a little bit more for using ultis at an inopportune time. Not a whole lot of nerf as far as like the Howl or the regen, which is kind of what's making Lycan super strong these days. But I mean, just it's good to see heroes that are really high win rate taking a little bit of the nerf bat. Medusa has also been nerfed. Mystic Snake cast range reduced by 100 to 700 now. The level 10 talent increased from 12 evasion to 15% evasion. so that's a little bit of a buff. 15 talent has been increased 15% Mystic Snake Mana Steal to 20%, and the level 20 talent has reduced the mana gain to 700 from 800. Again, not big changes for the hero, but just slight nerfs that'll you'll probably kind of feel through the game, but you won't really notice it except in very specific situations where maybe you wouldn't have hit that Mystic Snake, or you might just die slightly earlier from your mana, but the hero will still feel basically exactly the same. Morphling has been buffed. Morph cast range has gone up. I like this. I think Morph is still in a very strange spot as an ability, because you have to be super close to use it, or you did. This makes it a little bit easier to use. The mana cost has been reduced. So generally just trying to get people to use this ability instead of just playing Morphling as like this right clicker without an ultimate, which is what most people have been doing. Nature's Prophet, Wrath of Nature cooldown has been reduced. So maybe bring back the Aghanim's meme build. Just a slight buff to Nature's Prophet. Omni Knight, Degen Aura range has been reduced by 25, so you now have to be even closer to get them. Purification cast range has been reduced as well. So this kind of stuff will make Omni Knight feel, I would say, significantly worse, just because that little 25 is going to make quite a big difference between whether you catch somebody or not. And the cast range will also make it harder to heal allies in clutch situations. So Omni Knight has been nerfed, probably as he should be. Oracle, Fortunes, and Mana cost has been reduced. Who plays Oracle anyway? Pangolier, Rolling Thunder cooldown has been increased pretty significantly across all levels, 20 seconds to be exact. That's good. I mean, this ability is too good. I'm surprised that I don't really see any nerfs to Javelin or anything like that. I mean, I guess Iceprog is just happy that people are buying the item. But I don't really believe that the Rolling Thunder cooldown is what makes Pangolier as imbalanced as he is. I'm pretty sure it's the Javelin Swashbuckle combination. But this is just a nice little nerf to people who are spamming Pangolier and can Rolling Thunder from every single situation. You have to be a little bit more careful when you use the ultimate. Pudge has been nerfed. Rot Slow has been rescaled from 30%, which was significantly too high, to 20, 24, 28, 32. So quite a bit less at the early levels, and then scaling to a little bit more. But generally, when you have level 4 Rot on Pudge, you probably should have that slow anyway, because everybody's scaled and has movement speed items at that point. Pugna has been buffed with Netherward Health at level 15 to +2. I don't remember what the other talent is off the top of my head, but just a buff to that talent in particular. Life Drain has also been buffed fairly significantly at the max level. So Scepter now only removes the cooldown instead of giving you more damage. I mean, just slight buffs to Pugna, same hero. Shadow Fiend, Nectar Mastery, max souls has been reduced to 12, 20, 28, and 36, so less at the first 3 levels, so just less damage in general for Shadow Fiend. I assume that the skill build and everything will just still be the same, but he just won't be quite as strong as of a right clicker in the early levels, which is fine. This hero is being picked a lot, and actually we have released our entire Shadow Fiend guide on Pugna.com for free for the next month, so you can check it out and learn to play the hero, because everybody else is playing it. Shadow Shaman, Ether Shock cooldown has been increased. I think this is good. This hero is very, very strong, and his Ether Shock cooldown was very low, gave him an incredibly strong nuke at a very low cooldown, so now it's going to be almost twice as long at the early levels. Shackle's total damage has been reduced quite a bit as well. It's been halved at level 1, so just generally early game Shadow Shaman is much worse. That needed to happen. This hero was basically being picked in every pub as the support because he was just so strong in the early laning phase. He still has the big base damage, so he's still a good support, but this stuff is definitely a fairly significant nerf to his roaming and kill potential in the early game. Tinker base movement speed has been reduced by 15 to 290. I mean, makes him easier to kill in the early game. And beyond that doesn't really change because Tinker is usually just blinking around after that point. So gank Tinker early, delays Boots of Travel. That's how you hurt Tinker for the most part in the early game and potentially win the game. Tiny toss cooldown has been increased by 3 seconds. Not a huge change. This hero is still the same. Tusk, Snowball can no longer be cast while rooted. That's kind of interesting, so it just makes it a little bit hard for Tusk to save himself or teammates. Atos is good against him now. Dark Willow's good against him, that kind of thing. So this just nerfs Snowball, which I like because that skill is extremely, extremely strong. Wind Ranger, Wind Run mana cost has been reduced. Level 20 talent changed from +1 Shackle Shot target to plus 0.5 Shackle Shot duration. I like this. Shackle Shot target was fairly gimmicky, very hard to pull off. This just makes Shackle Shot better across the board. And level 25 talent, 30% mini stun focus fire to 35%, so slightly more tiny little stuns as you're being focus fired by Wind Ranger. Just buffs to Wind Ranger in general. Hero is still really not being picked very much, but apparently Ice Frog wants Wind Ranger to be buffed, so keep an eye on this hero because she's been buffed for, I don't know, the last 3 or 4 patches. It may become the next big thing at some point in the future.